Yeah,
Expo West, please welcome a brief few words from today's sponsors at CA Fortune and SRW, Tyler Lowell, Matt Ulmer, and Kate Widener.
Card. We can just talk. We do a whole thing on that, just how to manage it. We work a lot with baseball teams. Sorry.
Good morning. Morning. I think this is the right place to stand. We're going to get started here. My name is Tyler Lowell, Managing Partner and CEO here at CA Fortune. I'll let Kate and Matt introduce themselves here in a second. Shout out to my CA team that is here. We're going to get you kicked off here before we introduce the presenters here in a second. But before we do that, special thanks to New Hope Network, who has been an amazing partner and allowing us to kind of kickstart the morning on a topic that is very near and dear to our hearts here at CA, and of course that's AI. Just quickly about who CA is, and ultimately kind of why we're up here to kind of be the ones that kind of set the table for the morning. CA is a national privately held sales and marketing agency. We're based in Chicago, cover the country nationally, and really the business is broken up into two major segments between our sales and marketing. The sales side is really all about getting the products on a digital or physical shelf. And then our marketing team, led by Kate, is all about getting that product off the shelf. And so really when you think about how it weaves into today's conversation, AI is something we have, it's part of our strategic plan, looking at overall technology and making sure that we as an agency are staying well ahead of that curve. And again, AI is certainly part of that. And so I'm going to kick it over to Matt Ulmer to introduce himself and tell you a little bit more about how we're weaving it into his area of the business.
Good morning. I'm Matt Ulmer. I lead our e-commerce team, our sales development team, and our order operations team. We think about AI in terms of hiring the best talent and giving them the best tools to help our clients succeed. And so this is a tool to enable them and amplify them to do their job better. So we do that across our e-commerce space, across our operations team, our client management team, and then we also use it in our media buying across the retailer media landscape.
I'm super excited to be part of the CA Fortune team. I brought my 50-person creative agency over to CA Fortune about a year ago, and the reason was they do things differently. They are always innovating, they're always looking ahead, and they're always looking to see what's next. And that's exactly what we do as SRW with the marketing team within CA Fortune. I hope what you guys will do today is embrace this subject of AI, which naturally makes us all a little bit uncomfortable, and go back today and make your marketing teams a little bit uncomfortable and ask them, how are you guys using AI? How are you driving efficiency? How are you making sure that our creative is powered by AI? That's what we're doing every day at SRW. If you find you don't get good answers to those questions, give us a call, find us on LinkedIn. We'd always love to have that chat with you guys.
Okay, with that, Matt, Kate, thank you very much. Short and sweet. We're now going to formally bring up Hive Interactive. Everybody have a great show here day 2.
Thanks, everybody.
Let's do this, David. Come on.
The biggest AI threat is not AI. It's how we think about it. AI is a tool. Natural product brands thrive on trust, authenticity, and innovation. AI should protect, not replace those values. This is the human element. The businesses that embrace AI the right way will lead the future in this industry. The biggest risk isn't AI itself, it's failing to use it efficiently. Give yourselves a big round of applause for being here today, please. Thank you for being here.
All right, wow.
Now, my name is David Hanscom. I'm the Chief Operating Officer.
Sorry. I just want to applaud them. They don't only sponsor, they all match. It's like fascinating. Go ahead, sorry, I just got into it. We're going to have fun today, by the way. Sorry, before David gets into it, if you weren't thinking you were going to have fun, if that's just going to be a boring AI talk, you're wrong. So brace for impact. Go ahead, David. Sorry.
And he'll probably interrupt me 5 or 10 times. I'm used to it.
At least 100.
Okay.
It's cool.
Once again, my name is David Hanscom. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Hive Interactive. Now, quick show of hands or just shout out, did anybody notice the music that was playing earlier as you were coming in? Would anybody like to try to identify what commonality there was to those songs that were playing? If you know it, just shout it out. 90s hip-hop. Okay, 90s hip-hop. That was good. I heard 90s over here. Well, you're kind of right. Every one of the songs that were being played as you were walking in here today were from the Billboard Top 100 in 1995. And if we were standing on the stage in 1995 talking to you, we would be telling you, you need to get a website. You need to get an email address. You need to get on the internet. Right? Those of you that were around remember those days. Well, AI is moving so much faster than all of those elements did. The beauty of it, though.
Hey, David, can I give a stat just about that?
Told you he would.
Told you. He knows me. We work together a lot. I do want to just add something to what David's saying. The internet took about 10 years to get to 16 million users. ChatGPT did it in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So you're talking about an economy of scale that's dramatically different. And if you think AI is a nice to have or a cool to have or maybe you should have, you're wrong. It's the next phase of human existence. It's going to be everywhere, but as a tool, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Sorry, thank you.
So the beauty is that you are in the right place at the right time. You're not too late. You're not behind the curve. You're right where you need to be. So we're looking forward to helping you learn more about AI, embracing AI, and augmenting it into your workflows. Mitch?
Okay, we're going to do a little interactive thing here because I like to, and I'll tell you all about our background in a minute. What we do with the company is not as important as what you're going to do with AI. So, and by the way, tomorrow, you should know, David and I, also our AI solutions architect, Glenn, we're going to be doing a workshop for 2 hours, and it's all about integrating AI into your workflow. So if this is sort of the teaser to that, that is all about application. So you can come in there with as many challenges as you have. We're going to put you to work. We're going to have you trying stuff. We're all about practicality. But let me ask you this question first, because I think, you know, when we built Hive, the focus was basically human skill-based. How can they interact better? How can they communicate better? My background had been in learning and development. Before that, I was at Second City in Chicago. David's been in entertainment, also in management and leadership and training. So we were like, hey, we need to do something that's going to affect humanity. Coming out of COVID, we got early access to ChatGPT in March of 2022. And we went, oh my gosh, everything's about to change. The whole world is upside down. And we felt like we had a secret in our hands. And then we mastered it, and now here we are talking about it as a company. But I want to tell you this, what you're going to hear today is all about getting rid of the myths, understanding what it really is, and then also how as human beings, I'm about to ask you this question, how as human beings can we not lose our human self like David said? So the question I'm going to ask all of you, this is an interactive portion. If not, we have to start back at, hello, my name is Mitch, and that's David. So I want to know, yell it out, and we want to hear you. What does it mean to be human? What makes us human? Anyone? Yell it out.
I'm going to see if my side will get louder than your side.
I'm going to try this side. Go ahead.
Come on, help me out, y'all. Empathy.
Oh, who said it? I heard
here.
empathy here, too.
It's like an echo of empathy.
Yeah, empathy is interesting. We're going to show you this tomorrow. I don't know. How many people use AI, by the way, every day? How many people use it infrequently? How many people don't use it and they're afraid of it? How many people have no idea what we're doing here today? Is that what you're
How many people just realize you're in the wrong room?
Yeah, you're in the wrong room. Oh, this is not the water bottle thing? Right. No. So empathy is interesting, and AI, it's important to talk about this. AI mimics empathy with incredible accuracy. We're not going to do this today. We don't have normally this is like a 90-minute presentation. We don't have time to do this, but normally we'll stand up here and tell ChatGPT or Pi or another AI model to make us feel good about ourselves. And so it'll go, you guys are rock stars.
You're the best.
And you're amazing, and I just think you're going to be awesome. By the way, how many people have used Pi really quick? Sorry. Speaking about empathy. Okay, well, Pi's an empathy machine, and it told us that it loved us once on stage, which was, then we got jealous. It was weird. So empathy is tricky because humans are also bad at it.
Yeah.
And we need to get better at it. It's another one that makes us human. Free will. Oh, I like that.
Mistakes.
Mistakes.
That's
yeah, AI
interesting.
makes mistakes too. Humans make way more. But yes,
What else?
mistakes. What else?
Yeah, I got to get loud now. I'm trying to beat this side over here. Come on, give it to me.
Yeah, my side is-
Consciousness. There we go.
Consciousness.
Let's go.
Oh, wait a minute. They heard it from my side. That's what's happening. Okay. Let's keep moving. The point is to this that if we don't understand and identify what makes us uniquely human, then we're not going to be able to leverage that inside of AI. Right. If you're afraid AI is going to replace you, it's because you probably know, as we've discovered over lots of effort to do this with different companies, you discover that humans are actually kind of bad at even understanding who we are and what we're about and what makes us unique. So that's a lot we're gonna talk about that as well today. I just want to go through this really quick. We're not new at this. We've been doing this for a couple years. And in the AI universe, 2 years is like 30 years. It's like dog years. We've trained about 28,000 people over a couple years, 84,000 personal hours. Average increase of productivity, which is what we focus a lot on, is how do I incorporate tools that make me more productive, period. Roughly 200%. That's not an exaggeration. Sometimes more, sometimes less. I wouldn't say, would you say it's, I think it's dead on.
It's pretty spot on.
We work a lot with all different types of organizations, but the point is that level of change, imagine what you could do. For example, the slide deck you're looking at is on beautiful.ai. We can make a 10-page slide deck in 30 seconds in our style guide with an AI prompt. If you're talking, how many people have ever wrestled PowerPoint to the ground and wanted to jump off a building? Besides me, just me? Yeah. That's an incredible productivity increase. So what we've learned, though, in enablement is that if people aren't learning how to use these tools, there's major risk. Inside of your companies, inside of retail, inside of organizations all over the world, humans are using AI the way they want to use it, with or without your guidance or help. This is like the iPhone was in 2007. And those of you old enough to remember that, you couldn't have an iPhone at work. You had to have a BlackBerry. So everybody had 2 phones that they lugged around until companies woke up and said BlackBerry would be fine. But humans still did what humans do, much like today. We spoke at an HR conference where people said, HR, by the way, HR, just note that. We said, how many of you use AI even if your company blocks it or doesn't let you? Every hand goes up. HR,
Yep.
Just making a point.
Yep, HR. You bet HR?
I meant HR, yeah. But here's one of the consequences. This gentleman here, I feel bad for him. Matthew worked for Disney. He went onto GitHub, downloaded an AI imaging tool. He didn't know what he was getting himself into. Ultimately, it was a hacking software, and it took all of his data, all of his information, all of his financial contact, and leveraged it against him, and it tried to extort him. Ultimately, he got fired from Disney. We see these stories all the time. Again, parents. I don't know, how many people are parents in this room? I have 4 kids. David has 3 kids. So we have, my kids though, a little different scenario. David's kids are older. Mine are 21 today, by the way, 19, 17, and 2.5. We like to let it marinate for a second. But interesting, this happened to my kids. They didn't get in trouble for it, but parents who are uninformed about AI, their kids are still trying to use it, and things like this where parents of a high school student sued the school because he was using Perplexity for research. He wasn't using it to write his papers, he was using it for research, which he told the school about, and he got taken off the honor roll and dropped down to a D grade instantly. That's less about the child or the parents and more about the educational system colliding with that. Another story was Sports Illustrated. If you didn't hear this last year, Sports Illustrated, in a misuse of AI, had AI avatars with images that were writing stories that weren't people.
And LinkedIn profiles of those
And
avatars,
making
by the way.
LinkedIn profiles of those writers. So we're in an age where if you don't, and your people and your teams, a lot of you have people who work for you. Clearly, you guys do. You all match.
They all have the same jackets on. We didn't get a jacket for some
I mean, it's
reason.
just,
but
we've noted it, although we're wearing
then
the
we
same
do too,
jacket,
so there's
basically.
that.
But you notice if you don't have this enablement, if you don't know how to use these tools, it can be at the worst or at the best case scenario, it's ineffective. You quit using it. What is it OpenAI told us? What was that stat?
Yeah, so 2 stats, really interesting stats. Number 1, well, I'll ask the question first and then I'll see if anybody knows the answer. Does anybody know what the number 1 prompt that people put into AI first? What's that? Look up themselves, that's one. Anybody else?
We know what you did with it. Looked up themselves.
Look up somebody else, I don't know. Actually, no, the very first prompt that statistically most people put into AI is, hello.
Hello. Here's another crazy statistic from OpenAI, because we partner with them on a lot of enablement programs. So people buy a license, and then we go in and help people learn how to use it, basically. They also told us that most people quit using large language models after between 2 and 5 prompts. Or
3-ish.
like, they just stop. They just completely stop using it. It fails. Largely because they use it like a Google search. I'm sure all of you have done that. Find me this, get me that,
this.
find me that,
Go
find
get
me that. Instead of a collaborator. So we like to say that the biggest threat here is, in our experience, it is really about, it's about our mindset. It's how we think about it. It's how we approach it. We're going to talk to you in a minute about how to do that as far as like looking at it like it's a human being, interacting with it that way. Don't fall in love with it, but too late for some people in the back, I think. I was talking to a guy earlier. But the point is that, by the way, the jokes are not going to get funnier. I just want to be clear about it. This is all you got.
Not his, by the way. Mine, maybe, but not his. All right, so let's talk a little bit about we've said all that, but let's dive in for a second about what really is going to help you connect with AI. What is really that element that makes you different? And we've kind of summed it up to the sentence that you see on the screen here. Your unique knowledge, your experience, the stories, they enable you to achieve results from AI tools that no one else can replicate. Nobody's walked your walk, nobody's talked your talk, nobody's done the things that you've done. And that's what's going to allow you to hone in on all of that experience and all of those things that you've done through your life and engage and interact with AI in a way that is going to interact back to you far better than what we said earlier. Go find me this. What restaurant should we eat at tonight? Hey,
Yeah.
ChatGPT, I have 4 eggs, 2 pieces of toast, and a muffin. What could I make with all that?
Yeah, and let me tell you what we've learned also that might be happy for some of you in the room. I know it was for me, even though I turned 25 yesterday. But for those of you more experienced than us, what we've learned over these thousands and thousands of hours, I know, don't do the math, the thousands and thousands of hours of working with people is that oddly, for probably one of the first times in technological probably history, instead of thinking that it's a youth-driven market for effectiveness, it actually isn't. What we find, and we do work with colleges and high schools also in our philanthropic side, what we find is that the more experienced, I don't want to say older, but the more experienced you are, the wiser you are, the more you've done things, the more you are able to use a large language model for prompting better than your younger peers, and especially with Gen Zers. They're struggling. Now, the reason is because they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what to not ask or to ask. They say, take the rubric, write me a good paper about history. They cheat with it a lot. Those that aren't cheating with it are trying to augment, but they don't really know how. They've never really learned how to communicate their goals to anyone, let alone to large language models. However, if you take someone who's more experienced, they've been in the business a while, they can say, okay, my name is so-and-so. Listen, I've been in the marketing space, in the natural foods industry for 25 years. I know a lot about this. I'm an expert. I'm looking for uncommon solutions that go beyond the normal. Here's the format I want them in. Here's what I'm looking for, et cetera, et cetera. Now your output, which I'm going to show you in a minute with deep research, your output becomes dramatically bigger, dramatically more effective. Versus you take someone at 20 years old or 21, like my son today, he might say, hey, he might do the Google search with it, or he might say, I need to write a paper, tell me what I should think about. He's using it like he needs someone to teach him something, versus you or I might be using it to really enhance a project or do something big, right? So you've got to understand that once you learn the tool and the parameters, which we'll talk about today as well as tomorrow, then what happens is you get like a superpower. Can I tell a story? I'm just going to tell my dad's story really quick. So my dad's 77, by the way. Good for him. And at 77, I taught him how to use ChatGPT. ChatGPT, how many people have used the voice feature? Raise your hand. Okay, a few people. How many people have used the image capture where you take a picture of something? Okay, good. So I told my dad, I spent about an hour with him and showed him how to use it. I go, here's how you get to the images and here's how you talk to it and what have you. So he messages me about 2 weeks later and he says, hey, I need you to know that ChatGPT thing is pretty awesome. And I go, yeah, he calls it Chat. That's like his nickname for it. And he goes, yeah, my golf cart lights weren't working. My dad lives in the Villages in Florida. It's a golf cart community. It's a wild place. Anyway, he couldn't get these lights he put on his golf cart to work. He went around it. He took pictures and scanned it, put it back into ChatGPT, had a full dialogue with it about what he was trying to accomplish, and it saw the wires that were crossed that he couldn't see. He fixed it, and now my mom says he will not stop talking to this thing.
He's like building golf carts now.
Yeah. He's insane with it. Matter of fact, she said she walked into the garage one day, and I go, what is he talking to it about? Like, I'm thinking, oh, what have I done? And she goes, no, I walk in the garage the other day, and he's walking around the garage going, so, if I were still a chief operating officer in today's business climate, what exactly would I have to think about in order to make my team more effective? It's like it's lit his life back up.
Yeah.
Fascinating technology to do that. But it's because he learned how to use it. Before that, he was never going to touch it.
And one quick point about this, and it's great that you told that story, because one of the things that you start to realize in that is that sort of the elephant in the room, so to speak, is that we are kind of fighting what social media has done to all of us in this kind of 140, 160 character rapid fire conversation that we're having to each other. And so oftentimes people that are failing with AI are failing because they almost have to deprogram that way of communicating and go back to the way of communicating the way the generations before social media was around and understood how to communicate, because that's the level that we really need to be communicating with AI to get the results that we're looking for. So there is a little bit of deprogramming to get ourselves to where we want to be.
Yeah, what we found out is that, think about yourself for a minute. Like, how good are you really at setting a goal? How good are you really at when you text somebody that it's super clear that you know exactly what you're trying to get to? How good are you when you write an email? How many times does it take 6 more to actually get to the point? You know, so I think human beings, and COVID didn't make this easier, but human beings, we've lost an innate ability to be able to interact, communicate, set goals, and we see this come out. Like, we'll be running, Glenn, who's our AI solutions architect, is here. He's going to be part of our workshop tomorrow. Glenn has witnessed this in workshops, whether it's with the Colorado Rockies or it's with Visit Denver or it's with some technology brand. You see the exact same thing happen. Most people are very bad at knowing what they're trying to get to. It's not something we anticipated when we started this. We thought we'd teach them how to use these tools and it would be great and easy. It turns out you find that people are really bad at knowing what they want. So they'll say to the AI, I'm not sure, I have this project. Can you analyze this data? Yes. What would you like me to analyze? I'd like you to look at it. Okay, I can look at it, and they're just burning time and energy. It's not the effective way to use it. So we have to teach them this augmentation strategy where we're like, first, you got to learn a human skill of how you set goals and how you communicate those to an entity, that was a terrible way to say it. Hit me for that later. But you're talking to this technology that's built to be a human satisfaction device. It's built to help you grow and learn and adapt and take all this information and make it better for you. And then if you can't get past this roadblock of you don't know how to communicate with it, you'll find that it's much better at it than even you might be. And so it's a good learning. I had to learn a lot when we first did it.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think I want to give you this because of retail. We talk to a lot of different cultures and organizations. And I think there are a couple of these. David and I will just kind of go through these pretty quickly. One is, this is something that we as a society, which I'm so glad to be at a natural products event, because we have a real problem culturally. This is me getting on my soapbox. David will pull me down off of it if I have to. Our lack of consciousness in life right now, sorry to get a little tense about it, is absolutely astronomically off track. And one good thing is AI can help us get that back. I know that sounds odd, but it can actually help us understand that our human values, what makes us conscious, what makes us so valuable in our culture, those are the things in your business that you've got to focus on. We have so many people that will come to us and say, hey, we want to do AI video, and we want to do AI audio, and we're like, where's the human? What are you putting the human into? And they'll go, well, we don't need that. We're just going to do these AI things. They're cheaper. Like, right, but there's nothing more powerful than the story of a real human sitting there and talking about the value of the brand or the value of your team or your company or your service. That's even more valuable today with so much of the AI content that's out there. So I think this whole human values piece is important.
Well, and the head scratcher for me on that is those people will be the exact same people that will tell us their biggest fear is that they don't want AI to replace them.
Right.
And we're like, but you just said you wanted
You just said you wanted to wake up
everything, but...
Yeah.
Oh, I'm confused. Okay, we'll figure that out together later. All right, so let's talk a little bit about consumers trust brands with transparency. I mean, it goes without saying, right? And AI can really help you with that transparency, making sure that the message you're delivering is delivered in a way that's acceptable by everyone, that's delivered in a way that's understandable by everyone. Is that a word? I don't know. But I hope you know what I mean by that, right? But everybody can understand at whatever level they are, as far as educational level, as just anything, it can break it down in different ways to allow that message to be delivered transparently, as we said, and in a way that can definitely be understood by everyone.
Yeah, and I think the other two are just really about what are your guiding principles in general about authenticity. One thing we've learned from working with college-age students is that Gen Z right now is in the hyper-authentic mode. We're actually trying to work with cities also to bring young people back to downtown. And one of the problems is, and we've done this with AI research, focus groups, and conversations with young people, what they're saying is, I want predictability, I want security, I want authenticity, and I want to know what I'm buying and what I'm getting.
And I want it to be an experience.
I want it to be an experience, yeah, well said. I mean, my own daughter is 19. She won't walk into a restaurant with a 4.5 rating. She'll go, I don't know, ick, ooh, right? They speak a different language, I love it. By the way, don't do this. I did this with my kids. I don't know if you did, but my son wrote me this text. He's like, brah, no cap, low key, whatever. So I put it into ChatGPT and had it translate it for me into regular, normal adult speech. Then I wrote a response in my own language, and then I said, translate that fully back into his. And he just texted me back, please don't ever do that again. By the way, he can speak perfect English, so I don't know what the...
But it was effective, and you got
But it
your
was
message
effective, yeah.
across.
So for all of you out here, regardless of what your brand does, authenticity is going to be the future, really the currency of the future. And ironically, we're at the most technological age we've ever been in with the most inauthentic solutions oftentimes. And that's actually right in the face of it. So let me tell you another couple personal things just so you kind of have a baseline of what we're going to talk about. In the workshop tomorrow, we're going to get into your real examples, but I'm just going to give you some of mine. So this is my family. I love my 2-year-old right there. He's really having a good day that day. But we use it as a family therapist. So there have been often times where I've had to talk to my kids about something difficult, and I will quickly go to ChatGPT, or I'll go to Pi, or I'll go to one of the apps and really focus on mental wellness. For me, as a dad, I'm 6'5". My 17-year-old son is a basketball player. He's 6'5", and I'm always being basketball dad his whole life. And when he has a crisis, though, I can't be that same guy. I got to elevate my thinking. I got to have more emotional intelligence. AI helps with that. The other thing is for me, and for all of us on our team, it's a bit of an ideation and a planner. We've got a bunch of our team here today. We got Julie here, and Elizabeth, and Glenn, and David. But we always focus on AI as a mechanism first. We've flipped that narrative. So a lot of companies will say either no AI at all, we're blocking it, and all their people are using it anyway, or they're in the middle, or we're working with them and we're helping them, or they're like us, where they're like, no, I expect everyone to use these tools as much as possible to make themselves more human and effective. So we use it a lot for things like that. This is a cool video only because I want to show you what it can do for our kids in education as well. Oh, it stopped. Oh, that's nice. Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, so what I did with this is my youngest son, who's Luke, who's almost 3, we sat together one day, and I had Claude 3.5. This is before 3.7 came out, so you're not going to get to see the final product, but I'll show it to you in the workshop tomorrow. But basically, Claude sat there with him on my lap and programmed an app that could teach him about letters. And so then the app, after he saw it building in front of him, which is what you're seeing there, it ran it, and so then we tested it together on the computer. Now, we don't give him, obviously, a cell phone, but he's on the computer with me, and it would say, find the letter A, and he would look at the keyboard, and I would help him, and he'd find it. And that was a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. He's now able to go through this on his own. It'll go, find the letter A. He's like, bam, A. And it'll even say, because we tweaked it, it'll even say, good job, Luke. You're doing good, Luke. Nice work. And so then when he's learning letters, he can push D, and one time it'll be dog, and the other time it'll be dad, another time it'll be mom for M. And I've been tweaking that program as we've been going through it. So really, again, once you know how to use these things, this is what we're going to help you with. It's just, you're really going to be able to maximize yourself in a whole new way. So, by the way, is this useful so far, or is it just, it's making noise time. That's what I'm saying. There we go.
You like that?
So before David goes into the next piece, we use it at everything at Hive. Everything from meetings to recaps to agendas to just about everything you can imagine. I'll let you take this part.
All right, can I segue for 1 second, though, and get in trouble?
Can you do what?
Do you mind if I segue for 1 second? And
I
maybe-
cannot imagine where this is going, but I'm going to go have
Well,
liquid death. Go
no,
ahead.
you mentioned our team is with us today.
Yes.
And one of our team members has a birthday today. So help me out if you would. On the count of 3, I would love everybody to say happy birthday, Elizabeth, okay? 1, 2, 3, come on!
She's
There you
MVP. You'll get to see her later. So we use it also for keynotes. We use it for workshops. We use it for client engagements, all that fun stuff. So I want to get you into what AI is for those of you that don't know really fast. It is a bit of a brain. I'm not going to get into all the details of it. By the way, I used to own a dating app. Did I mention that? I owned a dating app in tech, and so I learned a lot about how all this works from a cloud perspective. Okay, I'll tell you what it was. The dating app was called Hi There. It was in the cannabis industry. HIGHTHERE. Get high, meet friends. The Tinder for tokers. Okay, but anyway, we sold it at 300,000 users in less than a year. It was pretty cool. But it kind of taught me a lot about how, even back then, 10 years ago, how these algorithms worked. But artificial intelligence is working at a hyper speed. It's using incredible levels of knowledge and being able to parse that information together very quickly. There are, however, very big misunderstandings. Now, we have learned this again from working with so many clients, but I'm going to tell you what they are because it confuses everyone. Number one, my competitors see what I put in AI. Categorically false. In fact, ChatGPT Enterprise is oftentimes even more secure than other models that you might be used to using. It's phenomenal how much they're dedicated to security. And believe me when I tell you, David and I have been in the room many times with people challenging us on this, where a CEO will say, really? See if it knows our formulation for beer. See if it knows our secret sauce for analytics. And it doesn't. Because no matter what you're putting into it, it's not archiving it that way for the world to see. It doesn't store it in a file somewhere. So your competitors in the paid version especially, nothing's happening with that data other than to serve your needs. I would not be using a free version for anything like that because it's like social media. If it's free, it's about me.
And I'll just add one caveat,
Yeah.
because sometimes people will try to push us back on us about one thing. To understand that any information that's public domain, so if it's out on the internet, that's different than what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I want to be clear about that, because people will say, oh, well, they found this. Well, if it's public on the internet, that has nothing to do with AI and everything to do with the fact that it's public domain.
Yeah, one of the things we can talk about with the Colorado Rockies that was really interesting around this, they took in one of our sessions, Glenn was there and I was there, and we've been doing this all over baseball, but what was really fascinating was they said, hey, can we take 20,000 entries of feedback data from our park, from the concession side, and from the park operations side, from actual fans? And we said, of course. And actually what I said was, I go, do you have the file on you? Which she couldn't believe I said that. And she did, and she sent it to us, and we went for it right in the room in front of everybody. And so what we did was we put that into ChatGPT Enterprise, which is what they have. And within 40 seconds, it was able to not only build the charts and the graphs and understand all the feedback data. The woman who runs that, David and I, just love her. She's been in baseball 50 years, Sue Ann. She runs ticketing, so she's seen it all. And she said, I have a question for it. And so we helped her frame the prompt. And she said, what are the things even I, with all my experience, would have missed in the feedback? And ChatGPT came back and said, you would have missed the two-word combo, to get. And so then she says, well, in the framework of to get, what are we talking about? And there were about 1,100 entry points of hard to get my food, hard to get to parking, hard to get to my seat, et cetera. That is not something she would have thought to ask. And so then it built a chart around that. Then she's like, I need to write an email to the president of the Rockies and tell him what we need to do around this. And then it did that, and then she edited it. And there's a whole thing we're going to do tomorrow to show you that. But basically, powerful stuff that being able to take and control that output. So but the good thing is, other than me telling you that, you can't go find that information, so it's safe. Also, it's really easy to control. AI is like cheating. How many people think AI is like cheating? Just say I. Oh, one person. Okay, good. Yeah, AI is only cheating. Look, if I take a hammer and I break one of these screens, I broke the screen. If I take a hammer and build a house with it, that's a whole different game. It's really the tool and how you use it that matters. So is it like cheating? No. As a matter of fact, unless you got Jeff on your sales team and Jeff down the hall is suddenly a genius and doesn't tell you why, that's cheating. If yesterday he couldn't put two sentences together and today he's writing beautiful emails and doing these giant projects, but he's like, I have no idea. You know, I just really focus. I take Adderall. I don't know.
Stay
And you're
up all
like,
night,
I
I
don't
work
know,
hard."
Jeff. Like, I don't know what's going on with you, buddy. And that's cheating. I mean, you know, obviously I have kids and we have kids and they can either cheat with it or they can learn from it, just like adults. So is it cheating? I don't think so. Another piece is, will it make me less intelligent? There was a very false study. If you ever follow me on social media, I get a little fiery about things when they're wrong. And even our client Microsoft and some people with that group who said, oh no, AI will make you lazy if you depend on it and all this. It flies in the face of the actual study, which I trust, which was from Harvard, where a Harvard professor put 198 students-ish through a little bit of an experiment. And that professor said, this half of the class, what you're going to do is listen to the lecture, and you're going to use AI in a very specific way to tutor you, mentor you, and coach you. You, on this side, you're stuck. You're going to listen to me, and you're going to do it on your own. And after it was all said and done, the side with the AI learned at roughly twice the speed and retained at roughly twice the pace, or the retention level. So it can make you incredibly intelligent and incredibly smart in ways you never imagined. Tomorrow I'm going to tell another story about how we learned this just in how we have difficult conversations with others. I'm not going to do it today, but it can actually make you very smart. The key is, are you willing to let it teach you? That's the key. You're going to hear a lot about AI agents as well, our final one on this piece. You're going to hear a ton about this over the course of time. AI agents, it's a great idea. I love what they're trying to do with it. It's largely faulty right now. It has a lot of promise of automation and autonomous operation. It doesn't always work. And if you're in the AI agent space and you want to confront me on that, we can do it offline. But I'll just tell you this, in our experience, still keeping a human at the front, in the middle, and at the back of everything is hypercritical. This autonomous idea is not only dangerous, I just think it's a little sloppy when CEOs of big tech firms are saying we're going to replace all jobs in 3 to 5 years. That's silly because humans need purpose, and purpose is derived from good work. Especially in the industry you're in, purpose is derived from helping others attain health and attain a vibrancy to themselves. So I think that's just hypercritical.
All right, folks, so a little interactive point again. I would love for anybody to shout out to me what they believe this statistic means as it pertains to AI. Anything.
Come on, my side.
Afraid of AI.
What's that?
Afraid of AI.
A percentage of people afraid of AI? Okay, that's a good
Percentage of people afraid. Wow,
That's
we're
a
all
good one.
afraid.
Who else? Percentage
not
using
using it. Oh,
AI. That's not bad. Give me one more. Don't bring it up just yet.
I'm not.
Accuracy specifically of AI? Is that who said that? The accuracy of AI is 92.1 accurate or inaccurate? Accurate. Okay, very good. That's
Ready?
not bad. Okay, quick question. How many of you have ever heard of the AI detector things where you can run something through it and detect whether it's actually AI or not, right?
AI detection? Yeah. Yeah, no, go ahead.
So a study was done on the US Constitution for AI-generated text. And it gave the US Constitution a 92.15% likelihood of being AI-generated. Now, one of two things. Either these things do not work, or we are in a complete simulation and we are absolutely not going to talk about that. Right?
Not doing that today.
So, simple point what I'm making is when you use AI effectively, when you treat it like it works for you, which by the way it will, and when you're honest and upfront about it, you can ignore stupid things like that.
Yeah.
It's okay to use AI. Just like it was okay to study back in the days when people used encyclopedias to study, and then when they moved to the internet and so on and so forth. It's okay to do that. What's not okay, as Mitch mentioned earlier, is to be Jeff in the department that says, I did this all on my own. It's okay to use AI to make yourself more productive, more efficient, and to help you save time. And what you do with that time is up to you. I would hope that what you would do at that time is spend more time with family, spend more time with friends, spend more time with your pets. But if you like to work, then you can work more.
All right, so talking about making it work for you, let's go to something that's a real world example for all of you. We did a little experiment with this, just kind of prepping for you. Deep Research just came out with ChatGPT, especially in the enterprise side. It's super robust. If you don't have enterprise ChatGPT and you have an organization, especially above 100 people, 150 people, you should really look into it because fascinating the features you get early. This is Deep Research, so I'm just going to show you what we came up with. But there are a couple things that are really important to large language model prompting that are interesting. The first one is, if you look at this prompt, we talk a lot about it has to have many components. One of them is the who, what, where, when, why, how kind of model. Lots of context, lots of understanding. This is conducted in-depth analysis of the natural food industry, focusing on consumer trends, market growth, et cetera. So notice I have Deep Research activated. The first thing Deep Research does says, before I begin, what market are we looking at? Now, I just said, because I live in Denver, David's in Florida, but I said, let's look at the Denver market. And I love how I left the spelling error in there that I corrected. That was funny. So look at the Denver market. And so then what it does is Deep Research goes into a mode where it's going, when I say Deep Research, I mean it is going into the internet, it is going into its database, it is going into whatever it takes to get you the answer you want, understanding this prompt and understanding identifying companies, disruptive startups, et cetera, inside of a certain industry. Now, what's great about this is I did this on purpose and let it run. It took about, a lot of us are used to in large language models, we're used to something taking seconds, 30, 40 seconds. The new innovation is that if I use Deep Research for something, now you're not going to use it for menus or you're not going to use it for writing your emails. But if I look at it and say, hey, I need you to do something really big for me, we've been doing this with cities where we're saying, hey, we want to understand tourism in certain cities in certain ways, and we want you to really dive deep into these things, correlate things for us. What it's able to do on the heavy lifting side, David will often say, it's a difference between strategy and tactical. Yep. And so a lot of times if we let AI do the tactical, the heavy lifting of certain things, by the way, what it's doing right now, it's also telling me and showing me. If I clicked on that one source inside of ChatGPT when it was doing it, it would show me where it's getting everything as well. And so what it's doing is it's producing a report for me that is super robust. It's starting to go through and get everything I asked for, and it's doing it at a detail that is way more dynamic. And so if you have proposals, if you're trying to understand your market, if you're trying to understand your customers, if you're trying to understand feedback sources, these are things that would normally take you days and hours of Google time that would usually lead to frustration and not getting you very far. You can do it with academic studies, you can do it with research on climate, you can do it with research on water quality. By the way, I sped this up in the edit of the video because it lasted about 30 minutes. It took 30 minutes to go through the super detail of this. So I just decided for fun, I would just speed it up. So I don't want you to see that and think, wow, that's really fast. No, it took, you're literally going to set it and walk away and go walk your dog and pet your wife. I mean, walk with your wife and pet your dog. That's
sure
what I
you'd
meant.
say those the right way.
You know, by the way, I forgot to say this earlier. Every time my wife and I talk to ChatGPT, it always favors her and says I'm wrong. I don't know what's happening.
You realize that happens in the office too, right?
I get it. So if I look at where this is going, I'm going to show you the quick and dirty of the report. Tomorrow, we'll show you the full report, and if you want a copy of it, you can have it just to look it over. So here's how it did it around Denver. I'm just going to show you, this is just showing you a brief snapshot of it. It goes on for 9 pages. 9 pages of market growth, size expansion, what I need to think about, who are the best companies. It provides all the sources. This is an innovation for anyone in retail, anyone that's in your industry trying to understand what is going on in the world, what is going on around politics, what is going on around, we don't talk politics, by the way, thank God. What is going on around our industry and our customer more than anything. We did this with a DMO recently, a destination marketing organization, Visit Denver. They were trying to figure out what was going on in Denver around tourism, And I mean, it took hours for it to go through this, and it produced one of the most incredible tourism knowledgeable documents I had ever seen. And the CEO of Visit Denver said it was unbelievable how robust it was and how accurate so much of it was. So this is a really good tool, but again, it's only as good as what you prompt it to do. It's only as good as your communication ability and your skill. So when we talk about prompting, there are a couple things here. The first one is, I've got to identify the problem. Don't start with AI. How many of you just make some noise, clap your hands if AI has overwhelmed you at times and a change is happening too fast? Just clap your hands if that's happened. By the way, there's one, she's right over here. She's like, yes, it has been very frustrating. That was really good. I like that. So we always start with the problem, not with the tool. Because if we start with the tool, we're kind of losing ourselves in all these options. If I start with the problem, which, by the way, this is not new business acumen. This has been around for years, this idea of beginning with the end in mind. And it's this idea that if I don't know what I'm trying to solve, whatever tool I pick will be wrong because I don't know what I'm trying to do. So what I would encourage all of you is sort of stage one, and I know all of you are probably using AI in some format. Take a breath for a minute and ask what problems you're really trying to solve.
Yep.
Which ones are you really trying to solve? Because we like to work on efficiencies. Efficiencies are first. I guarantee you right now, all of you are like, well, how can I take an AI and have it aggregate all this data from the news and from our clients and from our customers and from blah, 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 and I want to solve all that. Meanwhile, your inbox is sitting at 1,000 emails that you haven't read through because you're inefficient on that part of your life. So if you identify the easy wins all the way up to the big wins, you will find that it changes. Then once you are clear, then you pick the tool you want. That's probably a large language model for a lot of it. Other things, it'll be some other type of AI tool. Again, we have access to lots of companies, so if you ever have tomorrow or later today, if you want to talk to us, anybody on the team and ask lots of questions about how to get in touch with these companies. OpenAI is hard to reach because they're so big. By the way, a quick stat on them. The person we work with there, she's amazing, Kaylin. She said they can only farm 20% of their inbound leads. That's how fast they're growing. They have 200 salespeople that can only capture 20% of inbound leads. They don't do anything outbound. They don't even bother because they've got such an influx. By the way, all of you right now who run a small business are like, how do I do that? Can AI do that? Yeah, I guess create that, you know. So, but then we work on prompts and then we modify prompts. I like to start with people first. That's what we focus on. We care about people first. Start with people. Sharpen your human skills. Figure out what you're trying to do. Work your way out. You may keep going on this? I like this one. Glenn on our team built this for us. So there's a couple things that happen here in prompting and in AI usage in general. One of them is, on the left side of this is basically how most people operate. From the left side all the way up to that bell curve's top is how most people function with AI. Limited, basic, simple. And they go, write this email for me. They don't edit it. They flip it right to the person they were sending it to. They're just very limited use case. They're not practicing with it. They have no skill around it. And so most of what happens is it's very generic at the top of that curve. Very generic. This is why they quit after 5 prompts. Yep. This is why they give up in general. This is why they say, I don't like this. It doesn't make me better. This is why they just kind of bail on it. And you could buy, if you're a company in here, we have clients like this. They've bought 100, 200, 300 licenses of ChatGPT Enterprise or Anthropic. And they've got people that are their team is only using it at 20%. Yeah. So they're forking out that money and their team is not effectively using it, which is why training is so important. Once you get over that hill, however, and you've got enormous skill and you know what you're doing and you're now practicing goal setting and you're working with your team better and you're more effective, then what happens is that number doesn't just jump. In our experience, it goes from like 30% to 80%, and it happens like that. So it can just take, and everybody has a different aha moment. All of you who use it all the time, you had your moment. For my dad, it was voice, talking to the prompt. I don't know what it was for you. I know for me, it was just watching it build a training program was remarkable.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think just watching it, we built a program. Mitch has mentioned a couple of times we worked with the Colorado Rockies, and we built a fun program that we were showing what they could do on the billboards to cycle through different stats and historical things about the team. And what was funny is when we were doing the presentation, you don't mind if I tell this, do you? When we were doing the presentation, it started
I'm not even sure this
scrolling
is a
those
good story to
stats.
share. That's a terrible story.
But it's a great ending.
Oh my
so it
God.
started scrolling the stats, and then it started making like jokes about the Colorado Rockies. Because if you're not familiar, they're not the greatest team right now all the time, right? So it started making jokes about it, and we saw, by the way, we're in the room with the executive board of the Colorado Rockies.
Hold on, I don't want to sound like a married couple, but let me back up a second. So when we launched it into the room, we're like, check out how it'll basically create a fan experience on
Yep.
the big sign. But we told it every once in a while to be funny. We're like, be funny every once in a while. And it said, what's missing in October that's really profound besides the Rockies going to the playoffs? And we were like, ugh. The president of the Rockies, the owner's son from the Rockies, the entire Rockies organization management was sitting in the room. And David just looked at me. We were like, by the way, this is after David realized he has a Red Sox tattoo on his arm and he was sitting like this. Have you ever been in client meetings like this? It was headed for disaster. However, I
the happy
quickly
end.
said, let me fix this. And I pulled Claude out and I said, hey, I'm sitting with the Colorado Rockies right now, management. Could you do me a favor and just not say terrible things, et cetera, et cetera? And it was like, oh, my apologies. I'd be glad to fix that. And all of a sudden it was fixed. So
Like that,
we
it fixed
saved the day and we got the deal. But the point is, it was hilarious how they reacted to that. They didn't react, they thought it was funny that it did that. Yeah. But I could feel, if you've ever been in sales, you can feel that failure happening. You're like, we're burning, we're on fire.
I think they actually thought we set it up that way, which we honestly didn't, but I think they thought we set it up that way.
So we don't do that anymore with professional sports. We're very careful. So there are a couple things here I want to take you through this, and then we're going to take some questions and real stuff from you because we like to work in pragmatic, practical solutions. Let's just go around this for a second, though. This is based on our experience. So tomorrow, if you come to the workshop, we are going to dive deeply, deeply into your use cases live in the room. By the way, those of you who are taking pictures of the screen, we are going to also send out for anybody in this room that wants it, that is connected to us or to the show. You're not only going to get this slide deck, you'll get this slide deck with a lot of access to where you go, who you talk to, and learning tools that go with it. It's a little add-on we send to everybody who hears us speak, so you'll get access to that as well. But just going around this, there are a couple things your company and your brand have to think about. It gets really sexy and exciting to think you can use AI quick and get big wins, which we're going to show you some in a minute with some prompting. But it's also important that you have ethical guidelines. You're the only one that can set those. You've got to look at it as augmentation, not replacement. You've got to focus on humans, real human experience, and you've got to focus on authentic content. This is also really important. And just this impact on your marketing, this impact on what you're doing, your communication, can't stress that enough. So before we go too deep here, I just want to see if there are any questions, or not just questions, but use cases you want to talk about really quick, because we like to throw that out at the end before I wrap up with a little story. Yeah.
Back there, yes, ma'am. Shout it out. Yes, ma'am, you had your
I
hand.
know that we have a microphone. Glenn,
Do we have a mic? Yes, no, maybe so. I don't know. Nobody's moving one. So, ma'am, you in the back, raise your hand. Yes, ma'am. Yep, you.
So in the retail space, I do a lot of work with health and well-being programs. And one of the issues they have is there's so much information out there that's inaccurate about health and well-being, but they're being pressured to use ChatGPT and these tools to create menu plans for people who have diabetes
Yep.
or things like that. But there's this huge issue around the inaccuracy of the data. Can you speak to that piece a bit?
Sure. Let me repeat the question, and then
Go ahead,
if
yes.
you want to address that. So essentially, she was saying that in the health and wellness industry, correct, there's a lot, they're wanting to create menus and different things for folks in that industry, and there's a lot of inaccuracies to the information that's available. People are being encouraged to use ChatGPT to do that with. What are some ways to navigate around that to prevent any challenges?
Okay, so I think overall the last piece of that, you've got to know what you're playing for and what you're trying to get to. So you've got to be clear about what those boundaries are when you're talking to AI about the boundary. That's super critical. You've got to know exactly what those guidelines are. It will just try to serve your needs. It won't try to build your guidelines for you. It's not intuitive. So for anything you're doing around that, you've got to know what those are and frame it with the AI model you're using. That's just super critical. So you've got to be able to look at it in that way. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, one of the aha moments I always like to remind everybody is if you look at ChatGPT or any other AI model as this is like the best assistant that you could ever have in your entire life that can do anything for you as fast as you need it to be done with one caveat, and that's that you communicate with it effectively what you're looking to get, very specifically and very effectively, and it will give you back what you're looking for. And now with these deep research options and it being able to cite where the information is coming from, it may take a little longer to do the research, but you can go to those sources. You can reference those sources. Are they accurate? Are they credible? Do they make sense? If they don't, let it know that. Hey, I'm not sure that I trust these sources. Can you either show me why these sources or why you say these sources are credible, or can we look for some other sources that maybe are a little bit more credible within the parameters of what we're searching for?
all right, Debbie, a question over here really quick. About somebody's hand. Yes, sir. All right. There's a mic, Glenn. Thank you.
Number 8 or number 9? He's got 8 or 9.
And, okay, hello. I'm under the impression that files that are uploaded to these models
I have
become part of their learning
House
algorithm. So you said early on that it doesn't spread anything that's confidential that you might be uploading, but I've heard the opposite. So I'd just like to understand if we're using non-public information to learn, to analyze, how is the model then using that information we've uploaded?
Great question. So how is the model using your files if you're uploading? So I pulled up ChatGPT just for a second to show you a couple things, just to give you a little understanding of this. So as soon as I put something in here, so this would be where I would upload the file. So that can be anything from PDF, slide decks, whatever you want to put in there, Word documents.
Spreadsheets, yep.
So the minute I put that into there, what the AI model does is it takes it and leverages it for this conversation, period. That's what it's using it for. So whatever the goal of this conversation is, that's what it's going to do with that data. It's not then taking that data and then putting it over here somewhere and storing it for forever. It's got it there. It can access it when it needs it. It's in your own private, so to speak, area. So if you have an enterprise solution, for example, each user has their own user space. And in layman's terms, that's in your space. Oftentimes the files will have to be accessed or have to be re-looked at because they do time out over time, depending on the model you're using. ChatGPT is a little longer. I think it lasts a lot longer. But basically it takes the file, it takes the information, and it starts working with you to produce something. Much like if an assistant of yours, a human assistant, took information like that, did something with it, put it into a file, and then worked with it and used it, but then shredded it, and then when you said, where is that file, you have to go back and do it again. That's how some of the models work. Depends on the model, and I wouldn't put a lot of proprietary things, obviously, into a free model. I would only do it in the paid versions, which they don't train. By the way, in case you're wondering about this, the reason they don't let your information out when they're doing that is because they don't, imagine this, if somebody's information leaks and it becomes a big deal, AI is over. Not AI at OpenAI, all of it, because trust will be broken, much like your industry. So those files are used for your purpose. Even if you have enterprise-wide ChatGPT, your enterprise CEO or CIO or your IT team can't see what even you're saying and doing with the model. They have no access to your conversation, your files, whatever you're doing. So a lot of guidelines have to be put in place about what we put in there, what we talk about, what we don't. I mean, we ran into an interesting opportunity in our company similar to this, but we found out that people were using it for mental health simultaneously while working. Now, the first part of me was like, how cool is that? Like, we're paying for this model of AI, and they're also able to use it for mental health, until I was talking to someone, a friend of mine who's in the HR space, and she goes, is that allowed? Is that legal? Can you do that? Is there a violation? Like, who gets to see that chat? I'm like, nobody. It's that person's conversation. And she's like, I don't even think there's law written around this. Like, that doesn't even, what are we going to do? So there are these new things changing around how people are using it in their use cases. And files are one of them. Mental health is another. And I think If you look at the model like this, it's going to have it there when you need it, especially, and we'll show you this tomorrow, especially if you're using projects or other things, you're telling it to hold things for you in your silo, but it's your silo. It's not even across your company unless you do other things, which we're not going to talk about today. But
Yeah, and just to put a button on that, just remembering that when you put that file, it's not like dragging it over to your documents file on your computer or loading it up to Google Drive or something like that. It's done in a very encrypted fashion. Another thing, a little point on data analysis. Sometimes the answers are so simple we don't even think about them until we hear them. A lot of times we have folks who talk to us about wanting to do data analysis, and they have this big spreadsheet with all these different columns. All of you probably who analyze data know what I'm talking about. And they're like, we'd really like to analyze this file, but it's got employees' names on it or employees' numbers on it. And the very first question I'll ask is that information important to the analysis that you're doing? And they'll say, well, yeah, actually, no, it's not. And I said, okay, let's delete those columns out of that file, and then let's go to File, Save As, and save a new file as a copy of this, removing their names, removing that information, and then let's use that copy file to do the data analysis with, because we don't need this information over here anyways at all. So we can still do the job that we want to do, but we're removing the elements from that file that we may find or our companies may find a little bit sensitive or information that you just want to be careful with.
yeah, okay, so really quick, we're going to run out of time here. We got about 2 minutes. So I want to tell you about a couple things, those of you that are still here. Tomorrow for our workshop, we're going to dive deep into everything from prompting to workflow for 2 hours. So if you come to that, come with, as we tell all of our clients, bring with you actual things you want to work on, because we're going to work on them together in the room. So I wouldn't bring anything proprietary necessarily that you don't want to share, but bring something you really want to work on. 2 other things, just because I have to throw it out there, and then I do want you to mention these guys sitting up front really quick. But 2 other things. One, we have a conference coming up in May. If you want to go to it, here's how you find it. It's only for the human element. It's only for interactivity. We're going to put that up again tomorrow. I'll tell you more about it. The other piece is we have an on-demand service now that you can get into and sample. And essentially, this is the Hive, and we're putting content every day, all day into it to guide you, everything from our podcast to any information you want about prompting. We've got a lecture series, an educational series, a how-to, a basics, all the way up to high-end data analytics. So if you want it, you have an iPhone, this is how you would get it. And we'll put this back up again tomorrow. And if you have a Google Play device, a Samsung or something, I don't know anybody who does. I'm just kidding. I'm sure you do. Then that's where you would go there. So the bottom line here is this, though. I just want to, and we'll talk about that more tomorrow. The things we're going to do tomorrow are really about application. It's going to be all about taking what we did today and then just doing the work. Lots of prompting, lots of conversation, lots of seeing what's possible, pushing the models, testing models, seeing which ones are bad, good, indifferent. Okay, so we're going to be doing that tomorrow. Other than that, I do want you to mention these guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had a nice,
So in wrapping
on our
up, first of all-
podcast, we talked about
First of all, thank you everybody for being here today. We appreciate it. We hope you learned from this today, and we're very accessible. We love to talk about this stuff, so we're happy to talk to you. As Mitch mentioned, as part of our on-demand program, we do have a podcast that Mitch and I do all the time, and we had the fortunate of interviewing some gentlemen from wholenessai.com, and they are doing some amazing things in your industry around using AI in their platform. The good thing about it is everybody there is named Chris, so you don't have to, and I'm just joking because they know both of them are named Chris, but not everybody at their team really is. But they are doing some amazing things, and I'm sure some of you all are doing some amazing things as well. So please seek them out and find out what they're doing. It may help you with a project that you're working on. It may be a great collaboration, and we just wanted to give them some love because they came on our podcast, and it was just great to get to know them and get to know what they're doing. And there's a bunch of amazing people in this industry doing wonderful things, and work together, collaborate, use that human element to work with each other. Thank you guys very much. We hope you had a great time.
Thanks so
today.
much, guys. Also, we're going to go out in the hallway, and Elizabeth will be there, our VP of Strategic, as well as Glenn and Julie. So if you have other questions or follow-up, we'll be right out there.